Welcome to this Be the Glitter
Hi,
podcast. Hi.
I'm so glad to be here.
I am so glad you're here. Thank you so much. Could you please introduce yourself to this podcast where inspiration sticks?
Yes, hi friends. My name is Vicki Kenyon. I use she, her pronouns. That's me. Hi.
I love it. You're a lot more than that. So you are
You want
Madison,
me to say,
Wisconsin's rock star real estate agent. You've got this really
okay.
awesome radio show called Query on
Okay, here we
WORT
go. I'll do it again.
Radio.
Ready? Take two. Hi. Hi, Laura. Thanks for having me on your podcast today. Vicki Kenyon here. I use she, her pronouns. Yeah, so I'm a realtor here in Dane County. I work for Stark Company Realtors. That's my day job. And then I do 150 other things on the side. I host a radio show on community radio station here, WORT. It's called Query. It is the longest running radio show with LGBTQ themed talk topics. So I host the radio show. I'm also an event producer. I'm producing an event this summer called Queer Speaks. It's a humanities
Oh,
happening that is bringing queer, trans, and gender expansive voices to the stage at the Majestic for 2 days this summer. And there's always lots of other kettles on the fire, as a Capricorn says.
oh, you're a Capricorn.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my partner's a Capricorn.
Yeah.
Oh, no wonder we get along so well. And
Mhm,
I
yeah.
understand.
You
Uh-huh.
get it all now.
It
Oh,
won't
that's funny.
surprise you at all that I'm a Libra.
Mm-mm,
Like,
not at all. That's awesome.
and I love your radio show. I really appreciated our time on your radio show. In fact, look at
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. Love
ever
it.
since you thought this was such a great saying, if you're not in with inclusivity, you're out of touch.
It's so good.
I kept joking that the t-shirts are coming. And then I was like, no, I just have to freaking do it. So
Yeah, they're great.
here they
It's really
are.
good. Really good. I love that. I love it's a thing now.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So thank you so much for taking the time. I'm terrible at introducing myself. So very quickly, I am a writer. I have been pivoting as to where I fit in supporting my LGBTQ community and businesses who want to be more inclusive with their messaging. And I also have been loving being an online English tutor, helping people all over the world with their
Cool.
business English to advance their careers. That, on top of writing this really awesome book for a really amazing client, which is a queer queer trans story in that choose your own adventure format like my
Yeah. I
other
can't wait to
book.
see that when it's done.
It was really hard in November. We both were processing so much trauma together writing the
Sure.
book. We both needed a break and now we're both diving back into it and I'm
Good.
excited about it.
Good.
So now that we have a little bit of introduction out of the way, what are your thoughts when you hear this? If you're in with inclusivity, you're out of touch. What does that mean to you?
It's a loaded question, isn't it, these days?
It's these days.
It's astounding to me what's happening in the political climate in America, but let's not talk about people who are getting rid of inclusivity. Let's talk about people who are diving in even deeper than we were before. So I've been
Thank
working on
you.
this
Yeah.
event that I mentioned, Queer Speaks. I started working on it in October of last year. It takes a long time to put on an event in a theater like this. And I'll be honest with you, there was some hesitation around it right after the election and as things started to unfold. But I realized pretty quickly that our community needs loving and support and an atmosphere where we can be safe and be ourselves and be with each other even more now than probably ever. I think for me, embracing my identity as a queer person and really just diving in even deeper is important for myself and for my relationship with my partner and for the community at large. I'm
Yeah.
visible. I want people to see me. On my radio show, I say this almost every time I do an interview. Representation matters. If you can't see it, you can't be it. And so I feel like it's important for those of us who have a voice
Yeah.
to use it and be out front where people can see us. I know that the level of fear varies amongst people in our community, and that's why it feels even more important for me to use my voice and project it as loud as I can.
Awesome. Fantastic. I
Yeah.
agree with you 100%. The wind got knocked out of the sails for a bit there, but it also felt understandable that a lot of us needed to practically hide under the covers and not get out of bed for a
Yeah.
while.
No, for real.
But then after that, go, okay, wait, no, this is my purpose. I've got to give power to these voices and help uplift people in our community and remind each other that we have purpose, we have place. There's powerful stories that need to be told and amplified. I think there is just so much that we can do to empower people, whether that's giving them a stage in a 2 day event in a nice, safe, protected place, or whatever it is they need. One of the questions that we can ask is just how can we help?
I think the Queer Speaks event is important, but also like through the radio show. So the Queer Speaks event is humanities driven. It's speakers, comedians, magicians, entertainers. It's meant to be an uplifting space where people can find community. On the radio
Mm-hmm.
show, I have always felt like I should be using that space to provide resources for our community. Authors like yourself, pastors, lawyers, Abby Sweats and Tyrone Creech from Fair Wisconsin and GSAFE have been on a couple of times and just trying to provide resources for the community. So I think for so many of us, there's the ways I'm connecting in the community through each part of my life are different, really different from each other. And I think if we can each just find like one little way to connect with the community that we're within,
Mm-hmm.
especially during times as challenging as this, it's just really
Mm-hmm.
important.
How possible do you think it is that we will create more allies or empower allies as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have some friends who are really strong allies, and I think they're definitely paying attention in a different way than they were before. I said at the top that I'm a realtor. I conduct a training for different real estate brokerages here in Madison and Dane County, actually outside of Dane County as well. It's called an allied agent training, where I present to agents ways that they can be good allies for their clientele, for vendors, for just those of us in the community. And I recently facilitated this class actually for the first time in 2025. And when I was getting ready to do that at the end of February, I was thinking about, do I need to change this class? Do I need to change what I'm saying? I wasn't sure. And I realized that no, I don't. It's the same content delivery as before, just maybe with more urgency. And hopefully the people that are coming to the event to see me speak are feeling that it's more important for them to understand how to be an ally. So I think that there's definitely, when times get tough, people fight back and rise and link arms a little differently. And I think that our allies, I think we're seeing that from allies as well.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. And I think we need to remind them that we can create safe space for them to speak up too. Allies can also show up as their authentic selves. It's hard for us to, but maybe in this aggressive
Yeah.
national climate, that it's important to empower our allies to also stand up and speak up as their authentic selves as supporting us as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an interesting it's an interesting time.
I know. It really is. It really is. You have to be, for me, I have to be careful not to limit my exposure to news media.
Yes.
because the news contrives to frighten you. And so I feel like I can focus more on my work, whatever piece of my work I'm hovering over at the moment, if I just skim the headlines, have an idea of what's going on, listen to other people talk about the news. I don't have to be in it.
And I think there's more LGBTQ professional networking opportunities than we even realize. We know of some here locally in Madison
Sure.
or in Dane County, but there's so many more online
Yeah.
across the nation, but also across the globe.
Yeah.
And I think we all need to connect when we can.
You make a good point. If you can find global networks, I think that is important too, because people outside of America know what's going on. They're watching it as well. And I think they can offer a different kind of support because they're not in all this. And so I think
Or they
reaching out,
are, but in a different way.
exactly, exactly. And I think maybe reaching out globally is just a different way to connect with the community. You make a good point.
I how excited were you when you saw how some women showed up across the globe for International Women's Day?
Oh yeah, so much. So much.
That was so inspirational to me. And
When you think about all of the leaders in the world who are women, the president of Mexico and so many prime ministers and just the leaders all over the world who are women, it's definitely, yeah, so it feels good.
yeah, isn't it Erica Hilton, who
Yeah.
is this beautiful trans woman in politics in Brazil? And
Yes.
there's so many Gen Zs who are like, we want her to be president someday.
Yeah.
No more crazy presidents.
Right. Their time will come. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And you have a really cool networking group here, Madison, for professionals.
Yeah, yeah, it's a small networking group, small but mighty. I'm involved in a whole bunch of networking stuff.
There's so much.
I think in my profession, a realtor, I don't think realtors can be successful without networking. And if they can, please call me and tell me how. Because networking takes a lot of time and effort. But I really like networking. I like connecting people with resources and with one another in ways that are beneficial. But yeah, I've always been involved in professional networking groups where we exchange referrals. I think that's a really great way for a group of people to help one another build business and lift each other up. And so the networking group that you're referring to is small but mighty. I'm the realtor, there's a lender, there's an insurance provider, there's a banker, there's a marketing professional, there's a lawyer, and we just exchange referrals. And the theory is people do business with others they know and trust. And so if I know and trust you and can refer someone to you, the know and trust issue is lessened because they know and trust me. So when I connect to people that I know, there's an instant
Mhm.
connection, and that's the power of referrals, right?
Yeah, that bridge is already built. Yeah, absolutely. And I like how you are just so yourself. Like you are somebody that I never question whether you are faking it to make it. I mean, like you show up as your authentic self. And I think that is difficult for a lot of people.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd say especially in our community, right? Because like historically, people live in the closet or they're afraid to come out at work or they're just afraid to be out in society. So I think in our community, it's probably more prevalent that people don't feel like they can be themselves. I understand that for sure. I came out a little bit later in life, so I get that. For me, being myself is just, it's just the way I am. And it took me I'm in my late 50s. And it took me a long time to get to the point where I am now about how I present myself. I used to care a lot more about what people thought about me. Now I feel like what you think about me, that's not my business. That's your business, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I am who I am in every possible way, and I am not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. I want people to do business with people who they like, and if that's not me, that's cool. There's plenty of business for everybody. I want to be friends with people who want to be friends with me, and if you don't want to be friends with me, that's okay. It's not going to hurt my feelings. That's a hard place to get to, and it took me a long time to actually get there and be comfortable with it. I'm not always comfortable with that. I do struggle with it still, caring about what people think, but it's very healthy to care little about what people think.
Yeah. I,
Yeah.
I resonate with that so hard. In 2020, I decided I needed to completely change my life. And in that process, found myself with my Subaru. How stereotypical is that? And my dog
Yeah.
in bleepity bleep apartment. And just like in COVID times,
Wait, the only thing that can
like,
make the story complete is if you had a U-Haul.
right. I did, but it wasn't because I was moving in with a girlfriend. I just had to move things into a storage unit for a short amount of time
Yeah.
while I found my crappy apartment. But actually had a really nice deck under a red maple tree. So even though it's this upstairs apartment I could not get it under 100 degrees during July summer
Oh,
days. Yeah. So I was more worried about my dog than even myself. So we would sleep on the deck under the red maple tree at night. And it was cooler outside than it was inside.
nice.
But I literally had to ask myself, like, okay, now that I'm starting all over again by choice, how do I be as authentic as I possibly can be now? How can I be as true to myself as I can possibly be? No more giving up so much of who I am just to appease somebody else who's never going to be satisfied. How do I not answer to societal pressures to be one thing or the other, fill in some
Mhm.
dotted line on some coloring book? This is
Right.
where you fit in. So, no, I'm going to make my own future. And I'll never forget being encouraged to date again. And I hadn't been dating since before smartphones were invented. So I'm
So
just
there you
learning
go.
about dating apps and all this stuff. And I'm going to the dog park and asking these kids, like these couples with dogs that get
Yeah.
along with my dog, okay, so how do I do this? And it was so cute. And they were just like, oh, you should do Bumble. And so I get on there, and the first thing it asks you is, so are you looking for women, for men, or everybody? And I can't lie about this. As I'm setting that up, I'm also binge watching Schitt's Creek.
I love that show so much.
And David had just explained to Stevie,
The
it's
wine
not
he
about
likes.
it's not about the label. It's the wine.
Yeah.
And I was jumping up and down on the couch, pointing at the TV, going, "Yes, it's that. That is it." Um, and so I went ahead and went for everybody, and I'll never regret it. And anybody who I'm reconnecting with, like some of my college friends, I'm like, yeah, so it turns out I'm not even bisexual. I'm like pansexual. Like I just love everybody. And they're like, yeah.
Nobody's surprised as much as
No.
you've been.
And I'm like, and I'm not a salesperson anymore. I'm a writer. And they're like, yeah, you've always been a writer, Laura. Give us a surprise already. Like this is like, we
That's
could have told
awesome.
you all of this a long time ago. Yeah, I basically had to come out to myself because everybody else was way ahead of me.
That's how it goes sometimes. It's okay.
And I'm like, and I'm colorful. And yes, I'm loud and I'm embracing that. And yes, I'm probably the most extroverted person you might meet. That's okay too. These are
Yep.
not faults. These are good things.
It's all good. It's all good. Yeah, I
But
think
leaning in has been interesting, like what you're talking about.
yeah,
It,
exactly. I mean, I read this book. Have you heard of the book The Four Agreements?
yeah.
So that book has changed a lot for me, and I try to read it every year at the beginning of the year to just remind myself.
Oh, wow.
But it teaches some really good lessons, and I think the most important lesson that has helped me just be my authentic self, there's four lessons, but the two that are the most impactful for me was don't take anything personally. And that is hard to do.
Yeah,
And the
it
reason is
is.
because the second lesson is nobody that anything does is because of you. So when we feel like someone is, I don't know, giving us the cold shoulder or saying something disrespectful, instead of saying, why would they do that to me? Or what did I do to provoke that? The feeling should be, I'm just being my authentic self. I might have said something that made them feel a certain way, but that came from within them, not from me. And that has really helped me maintain being my authentic self for sure.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
So much is about letting go,
right.
too. You just have to let go.
Yeah,
And that's so hard for people.
there's a new Mel Robbins book called Let Them. And really it's the let them theory is just let them. Okay, just let
Just let
them.
them.
And
Right.
there's way more to it than just that, but that's the basic premise of it. And that just feels good.
Yeah,
So-and-so's
doesn't
angry
it?
with me for XYZ. Just
Just let
okay,
them.
carry on with your day.
Yes. Someone told me a long time ago when I was really young and was worried about breaking up with my first long-term boyfriend. She said, Laura, you are not responsible for their reaction. And I'll never forget that. I probably heard that at the age of 16, 17.
That's
I'm 49 now, going to be 50 in a minute. Yeah,
yep.
that's,
Yeah, but that's a good lesson to learn at a younger age too. Like your
yeah.
reaction is not my responsibility.
I didn't, to be honest, I didn't adhere to that in my marriage, though. I took everything so
Mhm.
personally. And looking back, how much I would take care of to, yeah. So it feels so good to be in my new
Mhm.
life.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, so much better.
there you go. Now you have an amazing book and a podcast.
Yes, and
Yay.
coming up with more amazing books. And
Cool.
yeah. Okay, so you provide amazing, safe paths to awesome home ownership for fabulous people
Yep.
and are really good at getting the right people in there for plumbing and craftsmanship and
Yeah.
whatever else they need. I love that. Why don't you give some glitter? We like to do this as part of this podcast. Is there something, some people that you want to give a little love to, some
Oh, yeah.
gratitude, some shout outs?
The first glitter, I would be remiss if the first glitter didn't go to my wife. She's so glittery.
Aw, that's
You know,
awesome.
I've only lived in Madison for, well, under 2 years, and she and I have been together for almost 3 years. And I wouldn't have been here at all if it weren't for her living here. And coming to Madison's been an amazing experience for me. And so that's all because of her. And so that's been very good. The other person I would definitely shower with glitter gladly is this guy named Adam Erdman. He owns a company called Renovation Cells, and he renovates homes, getting them ready to sell. And we've been able to partner on two projects so far that have been incredible. He works his tail off, both professionally and philanthropically. He's on the board for the Forward Theater Company. He's really involved in the nonprofit landscape here in Madison. That was his career before this renovation company. But I recommend him to people right and left all the time. And it's because he's such a good guy and he does what he says. He has integrity and he's about the hardest working human I've met in a long time. Yeah.
Wow, that says something. Living in Wisconsin.
Yeah. Yeah. Really good people. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Who else should I give glitter to? I don't know. There's a lot of
There's so many
people.
people.
It's hard to pick just a couple people. My friend FL Morris has this really cool general contractor company called Ace of Space. And they work
She's awesome.
really, yeah, you know her? Oh, you got to get her
I
on here.
met her through your networking group.
Yes, yes, you need to get her on here. She's a good candidate for your podcast. Yeah,
Awesome.
FL is it's a general contractor world. So first of all, a woman general contractor is a rarity just in that landscape. A
Mhm.
successful woman general contractor is a rarity in that landscape. And they're fair, they price well, they work well with their clientele, they're kind and empathetic people, and she cares about the work that they do. They try, like I do, to work with resource providers who are safe for those in the queer community. We exchange referrals back and forth a whole bunch. And she's someone that I think community members can rely on. Also, super giving in her life away from her work. FL's a big part of the Madison Gay Hockey League, and she gives freely financially and of her time for lots of cool stuff. Yeah,
That's fantastic.
yeah.
So, any final bits of advice before I ask you how people should reach you and what you need?
Yeah, I think the most important advice I ever got was to just be yourself. Yeah.
Yeah,
And if it's hard for you to be yourself at work or at school or wherever that main place is that you exist, you got to just find a little sliver of a place where you can be yourself. If it's with one other person, if it's in a small room with a couple people, you got to find it. And if you can't find it, turn on the radio on Wednesday nights at 7 or stream WORTFM.org on Wednesday nights at 7 and just listen to us. From 7 to 7:30, it's Query. From 7:30 to 8, it's This Way Out. And hopefully we can be a voice that you can count on.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to keep creating safe spaces, right?
Yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal.
Fantastic. And where else can they reach you?
Yeah, so in the real estate world, my name is Vicki, Vicki Kenyon, and you can just Google me and it'll come up everywhere. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Stark Company Realtors is the real estate company I work for here. Yeah, if you can find me on socials or send me an email through my website.
Or show up at any Madison networking event, and chances are you're going to be there.
Or just ask about me, there'll be someone there.
It's so true.
It's actually hard for me to walk into a room full of people where I know nobody these days, which I feel proud of because I'm such a connector. I like that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate your wisdom, your kindness, your experience. I love how you show the way as to how to be such a community connector and to provide that safe space in person and otherwise for everybody, allies and those in the LGBTQ community.
Thank you, Laura. I appreciate you inviting me on today, and I can't wait to see what's up next for you on this podcast.
Yay! Did this a whole bunch.
Cool.
Awesome. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.